Restaurant Unstoppable. Inspire, empower, and transform the industry. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, co-founder and owner of Rossoblu and Superfine Pizza, Dina Samson. Dina, are you feeling unstoppable today?
I am. I mean, don't you have to be in this industry?
You sure do, and I cannot wait to dive into your story. You're here because of Brittany Valles called you out, and was so much fun. Talk about unstoppable. The energy that lady has.
She's insane. Right? She's insane.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
what she's been able to do at such a young age to me is just, I know. Crazy.
She kept on referring to herself as the old lady. She was like, "I'm an old lady now. I'm 29 years old. I was 24 when I got started in this business." It was funny. She's a good time. But she called you out. That's why you're here. But before we dive into your story, let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
Sure. So my mantra, I say this to everybody, and so many people have taken this advice now. Take the meeting.
Take the meeting. And you're living proof of taking the meeting right now.
Yes,
Thank you for making time for us. But why is that your quote?
It's my quote because, I think that you learn so much by meeting new people, no matter what it is. I mean, you can learn about a new way to do business. You can learn about who they know and like how you can be connected to them. I mean, in the end, this restaurant business is all about meeting people and, taking care of people.
Relationships.
Yeah. That's exactly it. So I take every meeting. I
really
really do. It's crazy.
Great way to get this thing started. Where does it make sense to start sharing your story? Where should we go to? Where does this industry start for you? Or does it make sense to go even further back?
Let's go just a little further back, just from where I came from before I got into this industry, because what I think is super interesting is, a lot of people, I think, really focus on making money, right? Like, how can I make enough money? And is it going to make me happy? And, I think what happened for me was I was in the investment banking industry and hedge funds for a long time, like 15 years. I was in New York, making the money, doing the world travel, all that. And all of a sudden, I just thought to myself, you know what? This is not making me happy. Like, there has to be something more.
What was it that wasn't fulfilling for you? What didn't you like?
Yeah, I guess just sitting at my desk. I mean, that's all I was doing, really. Sitting at my desk. I was, of course, talking to the people in my office, but I never knew anyone outside of my office. I never made friends outside of my office. It was always just at my desk, spreadsheets. It was working from, 7 a.m. to like midnight. It just wasn't. And listen, we still do that in this industry, right? But you meet people.
In a 10-hour day goes by like that.
Yes, exactly.
you look at the clock, it's like 5 p.m. and in like 30 seconds goes by and it's like 8 p.m. Like, I got to start thinking about my side work to close.
Exactly. So, I just decided, I'm going to make a change. I didn't know what that change would be. Honestly, I just thought, okay, I have some money saved up. I'm going to move back home to California, try and figure out what I want to do with my life. And here I moved to LA. I ended up actually getting a job in LA as a video game producer for a Wall Street based video game. I was wondering
if that came after or before the chief staff of CFO. So okay. So you get into that a little bit.
Yeah. So basically I just moved to LA. I found a way to get here to stay in the finance industry, but to get a little bit more creative. And that was so exciting.
So were you doing finance for video game producers?
No, it was a Wall Street based video game that was going to be a virtual world, which now, that's easy to do. But back then, not easy.
Let's timestamp this, not to date you or anything.
Oh, God. It was 2007?
Okay.
2007. Yeah, 2007.
13 years ago, or more, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Wow, is it really 15 years
I know.
ago?
Isn't that crazy?
That's mad. Back to the finance world.
Yes.
Get into the details of the work you were doing.
Sure.
Like, you're looking at spreadsheets, but what were you trying to achieve? What was the actual work that you did?
I mean, honestly, who knows? I guess that's the point.
Tried to look busy.
No, that's the point. What I did was one of my main jobs was just analyzing financial statements. That was it. So I would look at, I did restaurants, actually, funny enough. I did healthcare companies, but then I really started to focus in on banks. So it was banks and mortgage companies. And that was with Morgan Stanley back in New York.
So you're looking at financial statements for banks.
Yes. analyzing them, trying to figure out, should we buy, sell, hold, that sort of situation.
Okay.
And it was very, very interesting. I mean, listen, that experience, all that finance experience obviously does really well for me here in the restaurant industry.
That's why I want to pry, because I'm curious to see, because I mean, the restaurant industry is evolving so much.
Yes.
And you have to be so good at so many things today to be competitive.
Absolutely.
That you're seeing people from other walks of life, finance, engineers, fill in the blank, right, coming and doing really well in this industry because where they came from gave them framework to excel in this industry. Finance is definitely one of those areas.
Definitely.
Yeah. Another one that I see is, like I mentioned, engineers, because of like systems and processes.
Absolutely.
So so let's kind of bookmark that idea of investment, because I want to know when we get back to the idea of you looking to open a restaurant, like I want to know how this served you.
Okay.
But let's go back to where you were with the video game program.
Yes. So basically I did that for a few years, and I was just the producer of the game. I managed all parts of it. I managed the technology, and we were building a new technology at that time, so I had to learn that very quickly. How does this work? Are my programmers making the deadlines? There was a budget, obviously. I had to make sure that we stayed on budget. And then there was the actual gameplay, like the user interface. Like, does it make sense? Will it be easy for the user to understand? And then there was a sponsorship level, right? Where we had to go and try and find sponsors for the game to help pay for the game.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was everything. It was so great.
Like anything, it's just project management to execute what your vision is, and how's that any different from building a restaurant?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So what were the big lessons you learned during that time that you think set you up for success?
Oh God, that everything always costs more than you think it's gonna cost, and you're never gonna meet the deadlines, and you need to be a little bit more flexible and have kind of another plan just in case. But I learned also, honestly, to manage people. That was like the first time. I had never really managed people, right? Because back in investment banking, like I said, sat at my desk, just, was in the spreadsheets. And then all of a sudden here I have a team, right? A team of people that I need to manage and make sure they're all doing the work that they should be doing. And learning, how do I keep them inspired? How do I keep them motivated? That became a really big learning experience for me, after having worked for how many years, but never managing a team. Yeah.
Okay. So let's pull back some layers on this, because this is huge. This is a big point of evolution for you.
Yes.
You have to know how to manage a team when you're running a restaurant. You said you learned how to keep them inspired and how to keep them motivated. How do you keep people inspired?
Okay. Well, it's changed over the years. I will tell you that.
Has it?
Yes.
Okay.
For sure.
Get into it.
So at the very first, like when I first started managing a team, I thought being their friend and getting personal with them, getting to know them, I thought that was going to be the way to do it, and it worked for a while. But what I realized then was, wow, there has to be something else. Like there has to be something more business minded to it. And what is that, right? And I ended up reading, listening to podcasts a lot, all self-taught. I mean, I didn't have a mentor to teach me how to manage people.
This is around the same time I started listening to podcasts too, and it was such a great tool. I love that this era of 2007 is when things have started to explode for us, right? But get into it. What were the things you were learning in these books and these podcasts?
So the biggest thing that I learned was setting expectations and then holding people accountable. That was the biggest thing, so I could still be that friendly person, but these are the expectations, what I expect of you, of this role that you have. And then here is like the measurements of what those expectations, of how we're going to measure it, and then just holding them accountable by checking in with them all the time and, saying, okay, have we met these goals? Okay, why not? What's holding you up? What can I help you with to get past this part? And that really helped just turbocharge everything.
So when you're setting these, when you're trying to hold people accountable and you're trying to figure out these key performance indicators to measure, do you work that out with them? Is it something that you find out with
Definitely.
time? Because when you're just getting started, like how do you know what numbers to look at? Maybe we can get into that when we start talking about restaurants.
Sure.
Like what key performance indicators you look like when you're managing people today.
Yes.
But unless something comes to mind right now.
Nothing comes to mind. I think that would be relevant, but I'd love to talk about it when we talk about the restaurants, because we got a whole process down for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said about being their friend, I think there's a balance that needs
Yes.
to be met. Like, you do
Yes.
want to give an F.
Yes,
You know,
of course.
You don't want to be transactional, but you got to draw that line.
Right.
So how did you know where to draw that line between friend and boss?
Right. Well, I stopped drinking with them. That was one. No more drinking. No more shift drinks with the team. You know, I think that, listen, I totally cared about all of them. I want to know their life stories. I'm willing to share my life story. Okay. But when it comes down to it, you know, this is the job.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I actually learned something very, like, not recently, but say when I first opened Rossoblu here, with my partner, Hans Lutman, because he, you know, a lot of restaurants say, oh, we're a family. And the problem with saying that you're a family, like, families are super dysfunctional, like even your own family is super dysfunctional. Right. You know, so it's better to say you're a team, right? Because if you're a team, you're working towards the same goal together. And that's a lot different than being a family. And you can still have that like warm, fuzzy feeling, but as a team working towards that goal. And as you know, as soon as that clicked for me, it was just so much better for all of us, you know, there's those lines don't get crossed anymore.
Well said. Anything else that you learned or how you grew during this time being a video game producer?
Oh gosh. You know, more so, I'll tell you this. So when I was in the finance industry, you know, there was no balance, right? There was just work. And that was in New York. I moved here to LA.
So you wanted to get into the restaurant industry.
Yeah, right. Right. But it's different. And we can talk about that too.
Yeah.
But, you know, moving to Los Angeles, I saw people taking lunches. I saw people, you know, meeting for work afterwards. I mean, for me, that time frame was like, oh my gosh, I can actually be a social person and really still be good at my job and get my work done. And so that really is what that era taught me, is like, they knew how to have fun and still work and really do a great job. And I loved that. I mean, I you know, and moving to Los Angeles, you definitely get that vibe more so here than in New York.
Yeah, there's definitely I think it's because the weather's so nice.
Totally.
You know,
totally.
Like, we got to slow down and enjoy this.
Yes.
We're in New York, you get outside and you're like, shit, it's cold. I got to get to the next place before I freeze to death.
It's cold or it's super hot. Let me get into the AC.
Yeah.
You know?
So I do want to point out we're sitting in Rossoblu right now.
Yes.
There is construction going on.
I know,
next door.
so sorry.
And I know Dina was worried about this, and I just want to make sure, I want to put you at ease that like, my listeners have heard much crazier things going on in the background, so do not worry about
okay,
that.
Thanks.
And so now the listeners will know what that noise is.
Yes.
So okay, moving forward, unless did I cut you short with the lessons in finance?
No,
and
that's
stuff like that? Okay,
it. Yeah.
You eventually become a chief of staff.
Yes.
When did this happen? What's the year when you make this change from video games to chief of staff?
Okay, so that was, oh my gosh, it was when so I have twins. I have 9-year-old twins now, and it was after they were born. So it was 2013.
Okay, so you did about 7 years doing this, and then what was the reason for getting out of that? So
the reason for getting out of that was, I mean, I just realized I needed my own schedule. You know, it was with kids. It became, you know, I just needed my own schedule. You know, before it was okay. I could just keep working. It didn't matter, right? But now I had these 2 little ones really needing me. And so I had to figure out, okay, how am I going to have a schedule where I can run it when I can work when I want to work. I can, you know, be at home when I need to be home. And so that's when I thought, okay, let's just get into the restaurant industry and just stay there. And then that way I'm an entrepreneur. I can run my own schedule, you know, and we'll go from there.
So when you got into the restaurant industry in 2013, did you get in as a chief of staff or CEOs in restaurants?
No. So my husband's a chef.
Okay. Yes,
okay.
I did see that.
Yeah. And so basically what ended up happening was we actually opened our first restaurant in 2011.
Oh, okay.
Yes. We opened our first restaurant in 2011. It was called Soto. And basically what happened was he wanted to open his own restaurant. He was tired of cooking in other people's kitchens. And he asked me, he's like, can you help me open my own restaurant? And I said, okay, sure, let's do it. And so that's where that started. That's how the restaurant, my restaurant world industry started.
I will tell the listeners that this time yesterday, we did not know we were talking to you.
Yes,
This is a shotgun interview. You were super flexible to get us to make time for us.
Yeah.
Because Brittany called you out literally yesterday.
Yeah.
And we made this happen.
Yeah.
So I'm learning as I go about your story.
Yeah,
so,
no worries.
2011, your husband and yourself opened Soto.
Yes.
And this is around the time your finance degree probably really
yes,
starts.
Exactly.
He knows how to pick them, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
So what was your role in helping your husband open this restaurant?
So my role there was to help him find the money, to help him build the projections, to tell the story, to put together a pitch deck, which, I started actually in corporate finance, and that's basically what you do. You put together projections, you put together a deck on telling the story of your business, and then you try and sell it to get people to invest in it, right? And so that's basically what I did for him. And so we pitched it a couple times, and we ended up finding an investor, which was amazing. We only needed one because the capital investment was super small. And that was it.
What was the investment you guys think you needed? Is it safe to say that, or is it fair for me to ask?
Oh, how much we needed?
Yeah.
We needed $400,000.
I think it's important to say this so that people understand what it actually costs to open a restaurant. $400,000, and you got it with one investor.
One investor,
wow,
yes.
That pitch deck must have been awesome.
Well, you know what? Okay, so his name's Bill Chait. I don't know if you've heard of Bill.
I do know that name.
You should probably talk to him someday.
So Brittany's a big fan of Bill Chait, too.
Yes. So Bill is, he's like crazy amazing. He's like super smart. And basically what he did back in the day, which was, 2011, is he started to look for up and coming chefs that would want to be partners in restaurants.
Yes.
And so that way you have that ownership energy in the restaurant, right?
I love this.
And it's culinary. So you always knew the food was going to be really good. And so basically what he did back then was he would just find these chefs and basically put them in and then have a support management company under them that could help them do all the stuff.
We do everything else.
Exactly.
Yeah, this started to get really busy around this time. People started to figure out it's all about creating opportunity for others.
Yes, exactly. And so that's what he did. Along with he had basically an investor that did all this with him.
Yeah.
And so basically we got a hold of him somehow. Oh, I know. We got a hold of him from Josh Lurie from Food GPS. He's a really great. He has he had a blog back then. But he's super into food. He writes about it all the time. And he had Steve's Food and said to Bill, you should talk to this guy. So that's how it ended up happening.
So any advice before we move on as far as putting that pitch deck together and things to consider when trying to figure out what it's going to cost?
Yes. I mean, I think and this is, my husband Steve says this all the time. You have to have your point of view. You have to know what you're going to stand for and really be focused about it. You can always veer off and maybe from that initial point of view, but you have to be super focused in that way. So he knew he wanted to do regional Italian food. At the time everybody was kind of doing pan Italian, where you just do all kinds from all regions. He was like, no, I only want to do Southern. I only want to do Southern Italian food, and I want it to have Neapolitan pizza, which at the time, not everyone was doing Neapolitan pizza, And so that was his point of view, that right there, that and warm hospitality.
Yeah.
And
point of view, I mean, what is that? It's vision.
Yes.
Right? This is my vision. This is what I'm looking at.
Exactly.
From where I am. This is what I want to be.
Yes.
And what do we stand for?
Yes.
Those are your values.
Yes.
It's so important to this is what people are investing in.
Yes.
They're investing, and you.
Yes,
right? So
of course.
It's a combination of who you are and what you have under your belt.
Right.
You are betting on a pony. Then it's also do I think the consumer is going to get behind what it is you're trying to create?
Absolutely.
You have to be clear on what it is you're trying to do before people will invest in you.
Right. No.
Any other thing that you wanted to mention before we move on from that?
No, that's good. I will say this. I think that you should know what your deal breakers are, and one of our deal breakers for that restaurant was we needed that oven. We needed the best wood burning pizza oven ever. And it's funny because Bill was like, you don't need it. We were like, no, we do.
Why? What makes it a deal breaker? Literally, we can't do what the vision is unless you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So.
And so that was one of our deal breakers. And so basically when, Bill was like, no, that pizza oven's too expensive. We have to import it from Italy. It won't even fit through the door. And we said, well, that's the deal breaker. We can't do this without it. And it's so funny because that oven ended up becoming like iconic for our restaurant and what we were doing there.
That's so tough.
I know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe we can go swing by later. Who knows? Is it close by?
No, they took it. No, it's closed. We
Okay.
closed it. Yeah, we closed it when we moved over here.
Got it.
Yeah.
So 2011, you help your husband
Yes.
open Soto.
Yes.
By 2003, you're like, I need a new change of pace. I need
Yes.
my own schedule. I
Yes.
want to become a chief of staff for CEOs
Yes.
and celebrities. How
Yes.
did you get started into that?
Oh, God. Well, when I was back in finance, basically what ended up happening is I would always work at these startups, right? And so when you work at these startups, you have to do everything. You can't just do exactly your job, right? Someone's always going to ask you something else. And so that happened, So the CEOs would be like, there's nobody to help me do this. Can you help me, negotiate this contract with, the cleaning company or whatever it is, And I was like, okay,
It's almost like
fine.
an executive assistant.
Yes, it is. It's like an executive assistant, but at a level that's where they give you a lot of, permission to act on their behalf, right? And so that's what ended up happening. I mean, it would just be like I would be doing my job, and then all of a sudden it would be like, okay, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? So then you become super integral in this person's life because they can't do anything without you, and they want to know your advice, and they want you, they want you to manage the people under them so that they don't have to do it.
You don't realize how much you depend on people too until they're not there. I'm literally experienced this because I'm used to having another person with us, Jared, and I just noticed because he wasn't able to make it, and then, like, you don't realize how grateful you are for certain people until they're not around.
Right.
And like I'm just used to him kind of like swooping in and like setting things up, and I'm talking and I'm like, oh, where's things? And I'm like, and these two can attest. So we have Sam and Savannah behind me, like, Eric, you're so all over the place right now. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm used to having Jared. But yeah, it's so important to have that person that you can just look around and like focus on what only you can do.
Absolutely.
So other people around are taking care of the stuff.
Absolutely. And that's a great point. And and that's actually what we've done with our restaurants now is, you figure out what people are really, really good at, and then you just have them focus on those things. And then, you get the support you need and wherever you need it.
So did you learn anything about like what is specifically a chief of staff? What are you doing? What does that title mean?
Yeah. Well, it's really you're managing a team. You're managing the team so that the chief executive officer doesn't have to, right? So whatever it is, like I said, it could be, the cleaning company. It could be, his assistant who's maybe not doing a good job, and and how can you train or mentor her to get her into a better place? Or it can be take that meeting because I don't want to talk to that person right now, right? And talk to them, find out what they want, then come back to me and tell me if it's worth my time. Like a gatekeeper of sorts,
I want one of those.
Right? Yeah.
That sounds great.
No, it's true.
It's so important.
It's so important.
So did you learn anything specific? I mean, you worked with some really great people. Who did you work with?
Yeah. Chief of staff wise?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. I worked with some amazing people. Okay. So I was chief of staff to Rob Dyrdek. I don't know if you know him from MTV.
The Dream Factory.
Fantasy Fat.
Yeah,
Fantasy.
He's great.
Yeah. So he's great. I worked with him and he was really great. What he taught me was to really have a plan, like a plan for everything that you do. Right. So he had a plan where literally from the moment he woke up to the moment he went to bed, he had his plan for his day. And yeah, sure, things change, but he actually would track his day by measurements, just like, okay, did I complete this today? Did I complete that? If I didn't, why not? How do I feel today? Do I feel like it's 2 out of 10? Am I 10 out of 10? If I am, why not? So he really was about measuring his success, and that was super exciting to me. Super exciting.
So when you started doing this 2013, when did you finish?
I was only there for like a year and a half.
With
Rob.
But with Rob, but
yes.
You were a chief of staff for CEOs.
Oh my God. Well, I was a chief of staff for many people. So I was also a chief of staff for, his name is David Gannick.
Okay.
He was at a hedge fund, actually. This was back in New York.
Got
so
it.
yeah. So, and I also was a chief of staff for P. Diddy, actually, for a while.
Yeah.
And so that was also back in New York. And then I also
So it's kind of like all over the place.
All
it's
over.
Not like, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, this is what would end up happening. I would be doing my job, whatever my job was at the time, whether it was, analyzing financial statements, whether it was working in corporate finance. And I don't know. People just would say, okay, I need somebody to help me with this. Again, smaller companies. And then it would be I'd be like, okay, I'll do it. I'd raise my hand.
Take
I'll do it.
Take the
Whatever.
meeting.
Yeah, take the meeting. Exactly. And I would just say, I'll do it. I volunteer. And then from there, I would always get to be right hand to this CEO just because they trusted me. They liked my work ethic.
I think you're a really good person to speak to this. Something that I go back on a lot. It's weird because you hear interviewing a bunch of people, you hear tons of great advice. And often sometimes the advice you hear is very counter to other advice you've heard. And one of the things you hear is always say yes. And your version of that is take the meeting,
yes.
take the meeting. Also, I've heard people say be very selective
yes.
about what you say yes to, because everything you say yes to is something you also have to say no to.
Right.
You only have so many yeses to give out.
Sure.
So early in your career, obviously you're saying yes to a lot. Do you
yes.
say yes to as much today as you did then?
So that's interesting. I do, but I have my gatekeeper now. So I have somebody take the first meeting for me, okay? And they take the first meeting for me and then tell me if it's something, I get the little summary.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that doesn't really fit right now, what we're into, but good to know.
Yeah.
Let me write back to that person and say, thank you so much, so I still have that connection.
Yeah.
And I still know exactly what it is they're doing, but I don't have to take the meeting.
Got it.
But
so as you grow, as you get
yes.
bigger, you put layers between you. So
absolutely.
You can say yes to more.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. That's a good way to look at it.
Yes.
So when did you open, because Rossoblu was your first restaurant, your restaurant that you were like, this is now what I'm doing, right?
Yes.
So when did that happen?
So that happened in 2017.
Got it. So you get away from the video games,
yes.
2013.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing more chief of staff,
yes.
That type of work.
Yes.
And so you had about 4 years of this. Anything we're leaving out from 2013 to 2017?
No, other than the fact that we ran Soto for 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when did that close?
That closed in 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
Do you want to get into that? Are there lessons learned there?
The only lesson I will say that everyone should think about when they're opening a restaurant is make sure that your partners or your investors are people that you like and respect. Not that I didn't like and respect them, but you have to be really sure that you want to be in business with these people forever. It's a marriage. You have to make sure that your core values are all the same. That it's it's what we when we were opening Rossoblu, we said we don't want any ugly money. We want really good money invested in this restaurant.
I'm not going to let you get away with just giving that advice.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like there's more layers here.
Yes.
And I don't want to pull names through the mud.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But get into specifics about the dynamics of the relationship and where there was the disconnect so we can know specifically about what to avoid.
Sure. Again, I think it's all about your core values. You have to know what you stand for, and for us, yes, everybody wants to make money. Okay, for sure. But we want to make money in a happy place, right? And we want our employees and our team to be happy. We want them to love what they're doing. If we have to pay them a little bit more to do that, we're going to do that, right? If we don't want to sacrifice any kind of food quality. We don't want to sacrifice the way the room looks or feels. All of that, I think you have to have a partner that understands that it's not always about money. It's about the community that you're building and that you're serving. And that's it. It's really, listen, when you invest when somebody invests in you and all they want back is money, that's
transaction.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. That's not who we are. Not what we do.
Because for you, it's more than the money. It's for you. It's a vision. It's a mission. It's a
absolutely.
It's you. It's an extension of you.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
And your partners have to be on board with whatever it is you're trying to execute.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you have to sacrifice.
Yes.
And cash flow gets tight.
Yes.
And when that happens, you don't want to sacrifice your values.
No.
So I hear what you're saying. Any other lessons?
No, that's it about that. I mean, yeah.
So moving forward, so you opened Rossoblu in 2017.
Yes.
So there was an overlap where you had 2 restaurants.
No, there was.
Yeah.
Yeah, there actually was overlap where we had 3 restaurants. Yes.
So you also, I forgot to mention, we have Superfine.
Yes.
When did that open?
That opened in 2018.
2018. So
yes.
Rossoblu and Superfine, pretty close openings.
Pretty close, yeah.
So to kind of paint the picture of what's going on in 2017.
2017.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2017, we opened up Rossoblu in May.
Yeah.
And it's going really, really well. So, we had the following already from Soto, right?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, then we built this huge restaurant. I mean, you're here, you see it. It's huge, right? I mean, it's like, it's built.
How many seats?
Yeah, gosh. Well, so inside is 100 and then outside is 100. Okay. So it's, it's a 200 seat restaurant, but it used to not be that way, right? Yeah. Because, now of COVID, we've added the patio. Mm-hmm. The patio used to only have, I don't know, maybe 30 seats, and now it has 100 out there. It's crazy.
It is nice though.
Yeah, no, it is really nice. And so, we were doing really well. I think everyone was super interested in where we were because this is the original produce market from 100 years ago. This building was built in 1919. It was, people were interested to see like what's going on down there. Because I don't know if you've driven around, there's nothing here. We're in the middle of nowhere. Like we've created this pocket, right?
I'm driving in the back of an Uber. My head is down.
Yeah.
And the car stops and I go, we're here.
Yeah.
I'm usually like doing the research.
Yeah.
So I did not see outside.
Yeah.
We're back, and you just kind of painted the picture of where you were in 2017. You kind of shared a little bit more about Rossoblu, the size, and that's kind of where we left off. So take it from there.
Yeah. So, basically, like I said, we were doing really well. If you look now at City Market South, right, there's buildings, there's office buildings and all that. There's another restaurant across the way. There's a coffee shop across the way. But when we were here, we were the only thing open. So you literally would come and it would be super dark.
Yeah.
And then there was just this restaurant, right?
So why this location? What was going on at this location?
Yeah. So, first off, so we opened Rossoblu on our own, right? We raised all the money on our own. We did it all. And so Steve really had this vision, again, point of view, where he wanted to do his the food that he grew up on, so Steve's half Italian, half Jewish, and his family's from Bologna, and he wanted to do Emilia Romagna food. And he was inspired because back when he was growing up, he would always spend his summers in Bologna, and there were these festivals, the Festival dell'Unità, and basically they were always outside, and there were always these just people just eating, and he loved it. And he really wanted a patio space. He wanted outdoor space. It's very hard to find outdoor space here in LA. And that's cheap, right? And so that's why we found this spot. We found it and he thought, oh my God, this is it. And I'm like, we're in the middle of nowhere. Who is going to come here? And he's like, no, I can see it. It'll be great. And, so it was really his vision. And honestly, I waited on it forever. I'm like, yeah, maybe. Then finally he wasn't going to give up. And I'm like, oh God, okay, here we go. Now I have to raise like how much money to build a restaurant in the middle of nowhere, And it's funny, it worked out.
Why did it work out?
Well, I think it worked out for a couple of reasons. I mean, one, we did have that following already at Soto that we knew would follow, that would come and check us out. That's one. Two, we had a really solid team because we had people at Soto that were, really good. We were able to, and needed some growth, right? We were able to kind of split the team in half and leave some of the good team there and then bring the other part of the team here to like help us build it here. And then also, just outdoor space. I mean, to be able to be outdoor and to have just these open doors and these big windows, that really just seemed attractive. I mean, we had some media come before, take photos, so it seemed really like, oh, where is this place?
Yeah. I still don't even know like literally what outside looks like.
Yeah.
I just kind of walked right in.
Yeah.
Has the area changed? Has it come up? Are there more players in the area?
So only this space. So this is called City Market South. And as I mentioned, it's, the original produce market from 100 years ago. And so what ends up happening is another restaurant opened across the way. There's an architect office. There's a wholesale clothing store. There's an event space. There's a movie studio here now.
Okay.
So it's filled out nicely where it's kind of like its own little community now.
Okay.
And obviously we want to do a little bit more with it and kind of let everybody know that we're still here, because there's still a lot of people that still don't know we're here, even after we've been open since 2017.
Yeah. Beautiful. So what about raising money? You said you did it all on your own this time. How was it different this time versus other times?
Well, there wasn't one person that just said, here you go. That's one.
No bill.
There was no bill. And then the other thing was, the budget was, 4 times that, five times.
It's a beautiful space. Yeah. I'm sure it wasn't a more than 400,000.
Yeah, more than 400,000. So that was.
So were any new lessons in having to do this all on your own? That things that you didn't have to experience before?
Well, I think, so this ends up coming, how I say take the meeting. I really think that that really lends itself also to also my other saying is, that you have to stay very open and flexible to like whatever it is that needs to happen, right? Like if you're just too fixated, you can miss some opportunities, right? And so one of the things that we did, and I didn't know I was doing it, but because I was meeting all these people at the restaurant, all the time and talking to them and staying very open with them and trying to build relationships with them. Those are the people that ended up investing in Rossoblu, right? Just always talking to them, always communicating with them. I'd say, oh, we're thinking about, some people I didn't even have to ask, it's like,
found out, they're like, why haven't you?
Yeah. Why haven't you? I want to invest or I want to help you. And what can I do? And that was really eye-opening to me that, these relationships actually can become something more than, than just, a friendship, or a.
So what is your advice for managing all these relationships? Like, how do you have like a something that you do regularly to like to reach out to people? Like, how do you stay top of mind? How do you not let those relationships fizzle out?
Yeah, no, I do. I just check in. Sometimes it's just an email.
Do you block time to do this? Do you like work it into your life? Like,
no, just when I think of people.
Okay.
Like I'll think of them and then I'll just shoot off a quick text. How are you doing? Thinking of you. Shoot off an email, or say I'm reading an article and it makes me think of somebody. I'll send the article off. Was thinking of you. Thought you might be interested. Just that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You keep everyone. I don't know, think about, you've met so many people, right, through this.
I'm not going to lie. I'm thinking about, like, I could be so much better about staying in touch, but I'm always, like, moving on to the next, next, to the next.
Yeah.
How do you make time to, like, just to keep everyone you've met?
Yeah.
Like, to make time for that many, like, hundreds of people. I'm sure for you, it's hundreds, if not thousands of people.
Yeah. I don't know. Honestly, I just, people come to mind.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I think, I'm a big fan of Jordan Harbinger. I don't know if you ever listened to that podcast, but it's all about just like social, emotional intelligence and just how to be a better person. A lot of like how we are, why we are, like just like human evolution type stuff. And he part of what he teaches is just like networking and socializing.
Yes.
And a big part of that is like you just got to keep the conversation without. Don't reach out to people when you have a favorite ask.
Oh, I hate that.
Just to like be friendly, like talk to people and don't ask, and just be significant in their life without like add value. Don't add, don't take.
That's
just
great.
Add. And it sounds like that's what you do.
Yeah. I try. I try to, definitely.
I love that. So when did Superfine open? You said 2018.
So Superfine. Okay. So listen to this. This is a crazy story. So we're open. Rossoblu opens May 2017. About September 2018, we're about to open Superfine. But we have to pause it because there's a fire here.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. This wood burning grill, the hood above it caught on fire during a service one day. And we had to postpone the opening of Superfine because we had to deal with the fire at Rossoblu.
Sure.
So that ended up shutting us down for 3 months.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was crazy. So that was kind of like a little blip in our that was our first experience with needing to pivot before COVID even happened.
Right.
You know.
Wait, why did you have to change what you were doing? Because the
Well,
money go towards fixing.
Yeah. We had to, like, for 3 months we were closed. What were we going to do?
Yeah.
Like, what do we do during this time? What do we do with our team? We don't want to lose our team, but if we're going to keep paying them, what are we going to do?
It took 3 months to repair the hood?
3 months.
Was it smoke damage and was it a bad fire?
It was smoke damage. It was the whole hood, or the flue or whatever, caught on fire. It also caught the roof on fire upstairs.
Goodness.
Yeah. And dealing with insurance, that was another thing I had never done before. And that took we're still dealing with insurance to this day.
Were they
2018.
giving you a hard time?
They were giving us a hard time. Yeah.
Why? Why does this insurance
I don't know.
stink so much
Yeah.
sometimes?
We still haven't closed the settlement, even though everything's been done.
Was there a lesson with insurance of maybe what you think you might not need, get that coverage?
Yes.
What is that?
Yes. So it's funny because right now I'm trying to, first off, there's something called day one insurance, right? And it's like, as soon as something happens that you start getting coverage day one. Yeah. So there's 36 hour or not 36 hour, 3 day, 3 days or 2 weeks or whatever it is. But I say go for the 1 day because you never know. Because say say there was just like a smoke alarm that went off. Sometimes the fire department will come in and just shut you down, right? Yeah. And you can't reopen. So you've lost, that whole day's sales.
Yeah.
So, but if you have the 1 day insurance,
and possibly whatever was in the refrigerator.
Too, all of it. Yeah. So basically, this 1 day insurance is you got to get it.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
So if you had 1 day insurance, would that have covered you?
Well, no, but there was another day where we had almost another fire, and it would have covered that day. Okay. But that's definitely one thing I learned from there.
In regards to the issue that you're facing with right now with insurance,
yes.
Is there anything that if you had worked your package out differently?
Yes.
What is it? Would you have done it knowing what you know now?
It's not so much about the package. Okay. I think what it is everyone should get a public insurance adjuster.
Okay.
Don't try to negotiate this on your own. Mm-hmm. What you should do is hire a well-known, well-respected insurance adjuster that does it for you.
What's the difference between an adjuster and a broker?
Well, a broker just sells you insurance
okay.
and then just kind of makes your connections. An adjuster is actually somebody who advocates on your behalf and can tell you, okay, this smoke damage it's going to hit you down the road. Make sure this insurance covers it. I would have never known that, right?
Yep.
Or, okay, those bottles could be contaminated, because they're open liquor bottles.
Yeah.
You need to make sure you get those covered because the fire department will come in or the health department will come in and make you throw all that away, right? There were things that I would have never known had I not hired a public adjuster.
Do you like your public adjuster?
I like my public adjuster.
Enough to throw him some business, give him a little shout out?
No,
okay.
No. But I liked what I learned from them for sure. I did.
Okay,
I did. I liked what I learned from them. But in the end, obviously, in the end for them, the more money that they get you, the more their commission is, right? Yeah. So, there's a little bit of shadiness there that might happen.
Well, good to know. Good to know.
So you have to be, stick to your core values and make sure you don't, get carried away.
Is there anything we haven't discussed as far as what you've done in your businesses, lessons you've learned? Because really, you got to think the people who are listening to this are people who are going out. I mean, I'm actually really surprised. The people who listen to this. Donald Moore listens to this, and he's chief culinary officer of the Cheesecake Factory.
Yes.
But also in my mind, I see people who are just getting started, who are just trying to learn, and they want to prevent as much bad things from happening as possible. What advice do you have for that person and through the experiences you've had?
Sure. So my main thing, and I say this all the time, and I've actually told this to Brittany, and she's started it with her restaurants. You do have to have a set of core values, and you do have to live by them. You do have to communicate them. What we learned from moving from Soto was a restaurant where we only had, say, 35 employees, right? Yeah. Then we opened Rossoblu, and it's 100 employees. Like the difference between 35 and 100 employees and managing that team is so different. It's
How
so
is it
different.
different?
It's like there's just more personalities.
Yeah.
There's more personalities. There's more, more shifts that you have to manage. There's more, everything.
Yeah.
And so what ended up helping us, what really helped us, and this was something that our partner Hans Lippman really helped us with. He said, we need to know what we stand for. And he's like, and we need to communicate it. And so basically what we did was we came up with a set of core values that we believe in as people.
Do you know them?
Yes, of course.
Cool.
Yeah. As people and as owners as people and as business owners. And basically, I'll tell you, let me just tell you first how you get them, because that's important. So one of the things that we said was, we looked around the room of our team and we said, okay, what are the best characteristics of these employees that we have here, right? And what would, if we could pull the best of all of them, would those be our core values, right? So we looked around, okay, there's work ethic, right? There's commitment to excellence, there's integrity, all of those things. And then we started to think, okay, but what is the real, the three of us as owners, what do we have that's really different, that we think is really different? And we went through the whole list, and really for us, it ended up being compassion. So not empathy, because empathy is just feeling, and understanding. Compassion is wanting to do something about it,
It's
right?
giving an F, yeah.
Yes. So basically, that became our kind of number one core value is when we were hiring, if we felt that person didn't have compassion, they weren't going to do well here, right? They just weren't going to do well here, because that's really what we're all about.
Yeah.
And so that, you just have to have those core values. So it's funny because I talked to Brittany today and I'm like, what are your core values? And she gives them to me and I'm like, no, everybody has those. You need the one that represents you, what you want, and as an owner and as a person, and then she's like, okay, so it's funny because she's kind of rethinking what's her differentiating one.
It's not as easy as it sounds, because one thing, I struggle with compassion, but one of my core values is transparency.
Yes.
And truth.
Yes.
Truth. I have to say, truth is my unique selling
I love
proposition.
it. Yeah.
But when you're very transparent and truthful, compassion becomes very difficult.
Yes.
Because in your mind, I just want to be honest. I just want to tell the truth to shed myself from this burden.
Sure.
But sometimes the truth hurts other people.
Oh, absolutely.
So how do you handle that level of good communication, transparency, truthfulness?
Yes.
But how do you stay compassionate?
Well, but see, that's the point. I mean, I totally know what you're saying, because I'm all about truth and honesty, and I had to learn how to exercise this compassion part, right? Because it's just about how you deliver the message, really. Yeah. It's how you deliver it. It's your tone. It's all of it, Yeah,
I had an ex-girlfriend tell me that truth or honesty without compassion is cruelty.
Yes, absolutely.
I was like, damn, you're right.
It really, really is. And listen, Steve.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. Steve and Hans, both of my partners, I mean, they are so great at this.
Yeah.
I had to learn it. I knew I had it in me.
Yeah.
I just had to learn it. I'm a little impatient. I want things done. I have that kind of investment banking, finance, New York mentality of just come on, let's get things done. And so, it's definitely something I've had to learn.
I love it.
Uh-huh.
Awesome stuff. So what are your core values?
Okay. So they are compassion, integrity, work ethic, commitment to excellence, can-do attitude, and passion for the brand.
And if you're listening to this right now and you cannot rattle off your core values, get to work.
Yeah.
But it's important to have awesome stuff. And we do have to talk about some other things. So Restaurant Unstoppable's mission, I like to remind people, is to inspire, empower, and transform the industry. And I like to spend a lot of time talking about what can we do? How can we be conscious? How can we be intentional? How can we start going forward with intention to transform the industry and make it a better place? Because let's be honest, we have come a long way, but we have a long way to go. Right? So what are you doing to transform the industry right now?
Oh my God, I'm so glad you asked. So this is actually something that I've been feeling very, very passionate about. I mean, ever since we started Rossoblu, we've always wanted a community part of our business, right? It's a commitment to community. We've done that through our partnership with Alma Backyard Farms. But, during the pandemic, it became very clear that we really needed to advocate for ourselves, not only as restaurant owners, but for me as a woman.
So it was before the pandemic? Or?
No, this was during the pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah, during the pandemic. pre-pandemic for sure. I'd always had like a women's group, women restaurant owners, where we did brunches and happy hours, kind of all the social stuff, and where I'd like have speakers come and talk to them about HR or talk to them about legal contracts, and so that's where that kind of started. And that started pre-pandemic. But then during the pandemic, it was like, okay, let's get all these women together on a call. Let's figure out what we're doing and how we're going to get through this. And so that just started as Zooms. It really started as Zooms. But then what ended up happening was we ended up coming down with like a core group of women. So, it went from like a 40-woman Zoom conversation to like 9 women. Like, what are we going to do? How are we going to make change? Let's not just sit here and just complain or talk about it. Let's actually do something. So the 9 women and we came up with this idea last year of creating this food festival, a virtual food festival during the closure, right? So everyone was closed. Nobody knew what they were doing. And we decided we wanted to throw this virtual food festival to kind of help uplift women-owned restaurant owners.
When you were having that dialogue, what can we do? What can we do? How are we going to create change?
Yes.
What was the answer, and how is the food festival a part of the answer?
So basically it was in January, right, when restaurants are notoriously slow, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, so everybody was closed.
Yeah.
And it was like, how can we drive business revenue to our businesses? So the idea then became a virtual food festival. If we do a lot of these collaborations where, say, my pizza place collabs with 4 different women-owned restaurants, and we don't do the typical pizza that we have at Superfine. Instead, we do a Japanese pizza, a Mexican pizza, a Thai pizza, a Spanish pizza, like to really like capture media attention, capture consumer attention to come to our restaurants versus other restaurants, because we're actually offering something really special, right? Something that you can't get all the time. So that was the idea. And it worked.
So the idea is to bring people together and then to also, when you say collaborate?
Yes.
What's going on there? What's that on?
Yeah. So basically what ended up happening was, for instance, like I said, for Superfine, right? I was like, okay, I'm going to collaborate with 4 different women, and we're going to offer a different pizza that we've never offered at Superfine before. And they've probably never done pizza at their restaurant, right? So for instance, I don't know if you know Nikki Nakayama, who's a Michelin star rated chef.
It sounds familiar.
Here.
I've never had her on the show though.
Yeah, so she's Nanaka. And so she basically, well known. Everybody wants to go to her restaurant. You can't get in. The price point's really high. The food's super delicious, but it's really hard to get in. So I asked her, I said, hey, listen, would you be willing to collaborate with me on a Japanese pizza? And she said, sure. I mean, I can't even tell you how crazy people went about this.
I bet.
It was to get this Michelin star chef to do a pizza. That's an entry price point for everyone, right? It was like a $21 pizza. I mean, that's what we ended up doing. So then after I got her, because she would help uplift all the other women that I brought in, right? Including myself. So then I brought in like a woman who does Thai food near the airport, right? My favorite restaurant. I live near the airport. She's like my go-to for Thai food. I brought her in and said, will you do a Thai pizza? Then there was a Mexican food place, Casa Vega, which has been around forever. I had Christy, will you do a Mexican pizza? And then I did a Spanish pizza with somebody from the Valley, right? Because I wanted to kind of get the whole geographic region. So I had a couple in the Valley, the Westchester, I had downtown, then I had like Culver City,
So the whole point of this festival was to bring attention to these women that we're trying to drum up business for women, right?
Yes.
So by having a big event, by bringing in big names, by finding ways to collaborate, and you're basically creating a platform for this next generation of women
Absolutely.
to stand up. But you need influencers. You need those women who have achieved
Absolutely.
The
yes.
So you bring them in, and that's what's going on here. And then they're saying, check out this next generation.
Yes.
So that was your strategy. That was your plan for making an impact in helping promote these women restaurants.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm just trying to figure out I'm trying to show the listeners, if you have something that is near and dear to your heart that you're trying to create awareness around, what's the strategy? Like, how do you do that?
Yes.
Get creative, right? So keep going on that thread.
Yeah. So basically that's what that festival was all about. So it was all about, taking the women that had their names already out there and then pairing them with women that maybe, you know, aren't so well known or haven't been in the media yet, and then doing these collaborations, you know, these crazy collaborations. I mean, if you go back to look at that list, it's crazy. You know, like Mary Sue Milliken, who's very well known, she did a Hotville chicken taco at her place, you know. So
yeah, you're exciting me right now, and I'm trying to like suppress my own thoughts and excitement for things I want to do.
Yes.
But when I get to the point where I can tow an oven around the country,
yes.
I want to do calzone pop-ups and collaborations.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And just throw like crazy things inside calzones and have fun. But
right?
The idea is just have fun with it.
Have
right?
fun.
And just like well, that's what food's about. Just like to enjoy
absolutely,
and have fun with it.
absolutely.
And then put a camera on that.
Right.
You know?
Well, that's funny that you say have fun, because that was another one of our goals is let's just have fun. This has been so sad and dismal and terrible. Like, how can we like build some fun right now, not only for us as restaurant owners, but for the consumer who's just been, you know, at home, stuck at home, quarantined, you know, probably eating just the same takeout every day, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we created this offering that was just insane.
Yeah. So back on the topic, I mean, the whole initiative regarding her is to help grow female careers in the industry, right?
Yes.
What's going on? Why is this an issue in the first place?
God, you know, this is, you know, there's so many statistics on this. I mean, the one that comes to mind, well, two that come to mind. One is, you know, there are in culinary school, 54% are female graduates, but yet only 7% of females are in the executive chef position, you know? So it's like, where's that disconnect? What happens to that other percentage? Where do they go? Do they just drop out? Do they never make it to the top? I mean, we don't even know, right? So we just want to make sure that we are doing our part of creating an environment that helps support these women to take them to that next level, right? And so the other thing, you know, that we did for this, so the festival was great, right? Yeah. And the goal of the festival was to raise money, to bring revenue to women-owned restaurants, but it was also to raise money for a grant program.
Okay. To
basically be able to create a grant program that we could then give money to women-owned restaurants that needed it, during COVID, or to help them grow, or to help them do whatever it is they needed to do, right? And to pair that along with some mentoring or coaching, right? So we started this grant program, $150,000 last year we gave away, 15 women, 10,000 grand each. And basically what accompanied it was they got to meet with a financial planner to make sure that their financials are all in order for this, you know, this COVID situation. They got to meet with an HR person because, you know, there are some HR issues during this time, because whether it's, you know, people that have COVID, or whether it's people that you had to lay off, or, you know, there were those HR issues. And the other was marketing. Like, how do I stay relevant in this, you know, in this whole situation? Like, what can I do? What kind of messages can I be sending? What kind of things can I be marketing? And so that was really our goal too, is to like uplift these women during this time. And now it's turned into like a mission. Like it's a thing. Like we plan basically on doing the same program, but we want to do it every year, and we want to do it in every region. Yeah. So,
listening to you talk, I couldn't help but to think about what you just described is what every restaurant should be doing with internally.
Yes.
For their people.
Yes.
Like, it's about like creating opportunity for people, finding people and putting them on a track to say, where are you going? What do you need? How can I help you get there? Let me use my resources and your vision to do something together.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I don't know why we don't see it that way more often.
I think everybody sees it. I think nobody has time or money for it.
Yeah.
And I'd love to share something else that we're doing here at Rossoblu that I think is a really good tactical way to do exactly what you're talking about, to kind of help grow people internally. So basically what happened was during this pandemic, same thing, I've been thinking about this, and I was like, you know what, like cooks, there's no way they can learn. Like, how are cooks supposed to learn? Because they come in, they prep for the service, they run the service, they break down their station, and then their 8 hours is done. And then they have to go because nobody wants to pay overtime, right? Yeah. And so we started to think about this, and I was like, we're never going to be able to grow cooks in this industry unless we try something a little bit different. So I pitched this to my husband, and I said, I want to do like a training program. And I said, I what do you think of like a mid-shift program where if there is a cook that really wants to learn things like how to butcher, how to make pasta by hand, how to, butcher fish, how to make sauces. I mean, whatever it is that they want to do, right? I said, what do you think of the idea of having them come in at like noon, right? They come in at noon. They train for like the first 3 hours, right? So it's 12 to 3. They train. Then they prep their station, right? They run through the bulk of service, not the entire service, right? But the bulk of service so that it gets you through the rush. And then they go home after those 8 hours, right? So they do say 5 hours of service. They do 3 hours of training on their own where they get to learn anything that they want to learn. And, my husband's like, well, that's going to cost money. And I'm like, well, of course it is, but it's going to be worth it to have cooks that like are inspired and like learning and training, and they won't leave because they'll want to stay in this program. And so he's like, okay, we'll see how that works, and so we tried it and it's been working.
So so back to the conversation we had earlier, key performance indicators, tracking, measuring progress, things like that. Let's swing that into the conversation now. So when you implement this new program, how do you track it to make sure that it is working?
Right. So, you have to track it with labor costs, obviously. And turnover, which, it's fine. Employee happiness, right? And I can already tell, so we've only done one case study so far, and she's so much happier than she was before, we started this, because now she's learning. And now all the other cooks are like, well, I want to do it now. How can I be a part of it, And yes, listen, it's expensive, right? Because I have to have 2 people on the line now instead of just 1 because someone needs to take over after the mid-shift person leaves, right? So it doesn't cost that much though, right? It's a couple extra hours. Yeah. So you're paying for what? 3 extra hours a day. Yes, it's a lot when our margins are so slim, but again, it's totally worth it.
What are you getting in return? And that gets hard to track.
Yeah.
Because it's not like it's like that. It's intangible things.
Yeah, it's intangible.
It's knowing that it's your people knowing that you care for them. But like, have you seen like any type of data to support that this is working?
Not yet. I think it's still too new. Yeah. Ask me next year. I'll probably have some data for you.
Yeah, for sure.
I will have some data for you on how it works. But I guess the intangibles for me that I'm hoping to see are, employee satisfaction for sure. That's super important to us. And then retention. Mm-hmm. Like, will they stay longer because they have these opportunities now, right? And actually, so Brittany and I, we've been talking about this a lot, and we actually we want to start a nonprofit that does just this, that actually pays for these young, up and coming cooks to do the program like this, and that it's paid by this program that's just going to be like a workforce development program. So that's our next step. That's our next goal. Yeah.
Keep me posted for sure.
I will.
We haven't, we haven't talked about the Independent Hospitality Coalition.
Yes.
So what's that?
Okay. So that started also during the pandemic. Literally the day, we all closed our restaurants, that Sunday, whatever it was, March 16th or whatever. The next day there were, hundreds of us on a Zoom, just trying to figure out, like, what do we do? Should we get together? How do we make this happen, right? And so there was a smaller group of like 10 of us that decided, okay, we need to make sure that the local government here knows what we need to kind of stay open, right? Like, what is it we're going to need? And I will tell you, there was a lot of regulations, rules that we're going to get established had we not been there to fight them, right? It was basically...
What were the rules that you prevented from happening?
So there was one that was having to pay sick leave for COVID, okay, which we do already now, but it was... there was some crazy rules. I can't remember, it was 2 years ago, but there was some crazy rule where you'd have to pay all this sick leave to all your employees that have been like, put on pause while you were closed. It's like, are you kidding me? Yeah. If we had to pay every single employee, that's like everything. Like, we'd have to close. That was one.
And how many people are going to take advantage of that? To say like, they can't challenge me. They're not allowed to challenge me.
No, I know.
Like, I don't feel good. Like, where's my sick?
I know.
My COVID sick leave. Like,
I know.
It's unfortunate.
I know.
But it's true too.
I know. It really was. And then there was another one where when you brought people back, you had to go by seniority.
Okay.
No matter what role. So say your dishwasher was like, had been there for 20 years, right? You'd have to bring that dishwasher back before you brought back a server, right? Yeah. And you'd have to try and train that dishwasher in that server position, like whatever position you needed. And it was like, what? Like how?
People
how
that
are
make
we
these
gonna
rules
do this?
don't work in restaurants. Clearly,
no.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, we're gonna. So we'll have to bring, like for us, right? The people that have been here the longest have been some of our cooks, some our dishwasher, bartender. That's fine.
Yeah.
But then what do we do? Like who are the servers, right? It was crazy.
Yeah.
So we fought against that rule and we won. But
so this is mostly around COVID-19. This coalition. Where do you think we're headed?
Yes, with everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Well, I do think that we have to rethink restaurants and the way that they're run.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that COVID has given us a great example that you can be more than just a restaurant, right? You don't have to just be a restaurant. You can actually be a supermarket. You can be a wine store. You could be serving your community.
Think outside the box.
Yeah.
Offer something else.
Offer something else. Like what are your diverse revenue streams? That are going to keep you going as a restaurant. Is it a consumer product good? Is it whatever it is? Is it classes?
Events.
Yeah, events.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Activities, whatever.
Yeah. So I think that that's definitely one thing. And then the second is, at least here in Los Angeles, is we need a different model. We need to figure out, is it raising prices?
Yeah.
Is it a service charge? Like, how are we going to cover our labor costs?
Yeah. So that's a big, so what I've been saying a lot in the show, and I kind of delivered the question differently today, but again, the mission is to inspire, empower, transform the industry. Now, this idea of transformation, what does transformation look like?
Yes.
Different business models has been a big part of that. What business models excite you? Which business models are you considering?
Right. So we are considering a couple things. Well, one, before the pandemic, we had already been doing classes. We really like the idea of education. My husband loves to teach. Hans loves to teach. I love to teach, So the idea of like a hospitality school, in a sense, right? Especially because we're coming up also with this mid-shift program and this like cook training program. We have like a vision of creating almost like a hospitality campus. And now, is that going to make us a lot of money? No, probably not, but it's going to help transform the industry. It's going to make it a better place.
And maybe in some way or form, long term, it could come around somehow to make money. It could a new opportunity for you. It
could, yes.
But you just can't track those things.
No.
It's just so hard to track. You just have to have faith.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of faith here.
Yeah. I've loved today's conversation.
Yeah.
I do want to leave time for a speed round.
Yes.
So if there's anything else you want to get out, now's the time to get it out before we take one more break to thank our sponsors.
Yeah, no, I just want everyone to check out regardingherfood.com. Okay, everyone needs to support women-owned restaurants. We have a great guide for if you're in Los Angeles. We have one now in DC. We just launched our DC chapter. We just met with women in Philly and Boston. We're probably going to launch there. So just want everybody to know, keep an eye out, because we hope to be in many regions across the country.
And I'll be the first person to admit, I'm going to go on record here, that there is an imbalance between men and women that get on the show. And people have called me out on that. I'm like, I literally don't even, I try not to even decide who comes on the show. There's a reason why I ask my guests, who do they respect and admire? Because I want the industry to decide who should be made an example of.
Right.
So I would love to connect with you.
Oh my God, I will connect you everywhere.
Yeah, like let
me know. Because it needs to be intentional, just as you said.
So like I can reach out to your chapters and like let me know who the leaders are, the women leaders are. I'll try to get as many of them on the show.
I love it. Thank you. That would be great.
We're back, and the first question I have for you is, what is your it factor? A habit, a trait, a characteristic you believe most contributes to your success? It's a strength.
Awesome. So I've said this before in this podcast. I just stay open and flexible.
What is your biggest weakness?
Because I stay open and flexible. That's my biggest weakness. No, my biggest weakness is not managing my time better. Yeah.
What are you doing to be a better time manager? Maybe it's because you say yes to everything.
Yeah. So I do plan my day. I mean, I do plan it from, the start to the finish. And I try and stay on schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I use something called the Panda Planner, just so everybody knows.
Panda Planner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that like a technique?
It's just, it's like literally like a planner that,
Oh.
like, where you write everything down, but then it also talks to you about how you're feeling that day, what's your inspirational quote for the day. Like, it just kind of keeps you very focused on your day.
Got it. What is one question you ask or thing you look for when you're growing your team?
Compassion.
How do you know somebody's compassionate?
You can tell when you talk to people. I look for what lights them up.
Got it. What is one of your biggest challenges today?
Gosh.
Answering this question.
Yeah. Right. I know. So there are a lot of opportunities coming our way right now, and that's kind of my biggest challenge is which ones do we pick? Yeah.
Share one code of conduct or behavior, a core value you teach your team.
Oh, well, we talked about this, but compassion stuff. It's the number one always.
There's a theme.
Yes.
What is one uncommon standard of service you teach your team? So something that's common throughout your restaurants, not common throughout the industry, to go above and beyond.
Yes. I like to say learn one thing new about someone. Like every day.
I love that.
Yes.
What is one book that's a must read to make us a better person or a restaurant operator?
I don't read books. It's so funny.
What about audio?
I don't. Yeah.
Podcasts?
I do. Okay. So as a woman, and as there's this great podcast. Her name is Chris Plackey, and it's about leadership as a woman.
Is it KRIS?
KRISPLACHY. And she basically talks about leadership when you're a woman and what that's like.
Got it. What is one thing you feel restaurateurs don't do well enough or often enough?
I don't talk to their team members, see how they're feeling.
That's a good one. What is one service that you've outsourced or hired? Something that you can never do as well as somebody who's that's not within your team, to just contract it out and to have them do it.
Social media.
And who do you contract out for social media?
A friend of mine that we've been friends forever, Joy Liminon from Peridot Consulting. She's amazing.
Peridot Consulting.
Yes.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, Peridot, Peridot.
Got it.
Consulting.
You
should talk to her, by the way. She's amazing.
Nice. Maybe we can do a workshop.
Yes.
I'm all for it.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. What is one piece of technology you've recently adopted within your restaurants that's had a huge impact on communication, efficiency, profitability, anything along these lines?
Basecamp.
Basecamp.
Yes.
What is Basecamp?
Basecamp. It's basically a project managing database. You can put everything in there that you've got going on, make sure you're staying on track with all it. You can assign topics to people to take care of. It's awesome.
Awesome. Is there a free level to that too?
There is, yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Are you guys still on the free level or have you graduated?
No, we've graduated. We have too
How
many
does that
things
work?
going on.
How do the tiers work, do you know?
It's not that expensive, to be honest. I mean, it's maybe like $99. I mean, that sounds expensive. $99 a month, maybe, something like that. But it's so worth it.
This is the last question.
Okay.
It's a doozy.
Okay.
Hold on. If you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow. All the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants would be lost with your departure. With the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom that you could leave behind for the good of humanity and for your legacy, what would those 3 pieces of wisdom be?
Oh, my God. That is a doozy.
It is a doozy.
3 pieces. All right. Build a community around you.
1.
Take care of yourself.
2.
And, oh, gosh.
I got one locked and loaded already.
You do? That I'm going to say?
It's been a theme of today's episode.
Well, I know, but that's so easy, though. Be compassionate.
That's a good one,
have
though.
compassion.
It
is.
It's your time to shine. If you want to give it a different third, feel free to.
No, that's it. That's a good one.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Awesome. I've loved today's conversation, Dina. Thank you so much. We wrap up every chat by calling somebody out. Who do you respect and admire and believe would make a great guest mentor like you made for us today?
Oh my God. You have to talk to Mary Sue Milliken. Mary Sue Milliken. She's one of our co-founders regarding her. She's been in this industry 40 years.
What's the Southwest restaurant that she is?
Yeah, Border Grill.
That's right.
And now she has Socolo. She's been on TV shows. She's had, radio shows. I mean, she's amazing. And she's like literally the driving force for equity in this industry for women, and she's amazing.
I am very familiar, not super familiar, but
Yeah.
like I remember her early on when I was first getting started. I actually reached out to her.
Yes.
But it was like when like Restaurant Unstoppable had like 10 episodes. So like she was like, "Who is this? What's a podcast?" I would love to try again.
She didn't take the meeting.
I mean, I don't blame her. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, no. Perfect.
So I'd love to make that happen.
Yes.
Your partner.
Yes.
Anybody else?
Oh.
You said I should talk to your partner.
Oh yeah.
Just call them out so I can say
Oh,
that you
okay,
called
okay,
them
got
out.
it, got
Yeah,
it. Oh, Hans Lutman. I mean, my partner here
Yeah.
at Rossoblu. He's amazing. He's been a driving force for our culture here at Rossoblu, and I think you'd love to speak to him.
Thank you so much. Look out, Hans. I'm coming after you. Look out, Mary Sue, right?
Yeah, Mary Sue Milligan.
I'm coming after you. I'd love to get you on the show. And I just can't say thank you enough, Dina. Thank you for being a shining light of what can be different, what can be better, and then to going to work to make that happen. There is no questioning. You are unstoppable.
Oh, thanks so much.
Cheers. Well,